I'm with Elana Heideman from Israel Forever Foundation, and we're talking about Purim and Iran. Now, war has just broken out between Israel and Iran. At this time, is this quite significant for you during the time of Purim that this is happening?
Indeed, we are living in a historic time. We are just upon the remembrance of when Mordechai HaYehudi, which was one of the first historical documents that references HaYehudi, the Jew, he helped to save with his niece Esther. He helped to save the Jewish people from the evil hand of Haman, who was the viceroy of the king of Persia at that time, Ahasuerus. Every single year, we celebrate this day by coming together with our communities, reading the Megillah, the scroll of Esther, the book of Esther, and we shout out boo when we hear the name of Haman, who for years was equated with Hitler in later generations after him and others throughout history who really have tried again and again to annihilate the Jews as Haman did. And we blot out his name because we need to always recall that the enemy is always there. Hitler after him, Hamas, Khomeini, they are all from the same ilk of Amalek, the eternal enemy and the embodiment of evil in our times. So, yes, it's very significant for every one of the Jewish nation to be seeing how we have the ability now. This is not a war between Israel and Iran only. This is a war so that Israel can save humanity because Iran embodies the deterioration of all good in the world to a world of terror. So this war is in a timely fashion. And as Mordechai once said to Esther, perhaps that it is for this moment that you were born. And I think that there are a lot of people who feel like perhaps it is at this moment, for this moment in time, the leaders who are in place today to take out the tyrannical regime of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and their Ayatollah dictatorships. This is what we were born for, to bring Torah and peace to the world. It's very significant times for all of us.
Does this seem very biblical, especially, at this
Absolutely.
particular time? And do you see the parallels of Purim, at this time?
Absolutely. We are astounded with it and turning it into memes left and right because we are overjoyed with this comparison. We are with this continuation of Jewish destiny being lived out. It's really something astounding for all of us. It's really astounding for all of us to be living through. We're very excited, but we're nervous. We're in our shelters, something we know the Jews in time of Esther did not have. So we're very grateful for a sovereign Jewish state that allows us to make this kind of historical comparison while living with, the reality. And as we say in many of our Jewish thought, the main thing is to not be afraid. And so that's really where we are trying to make sure that we follow the ancestral pattern of resilience and pride and strength, and we carry it on.
Are you seeing God working at this time during this war? We've had rockets coming over from Iran, yet we've had nobody killed in this attack or anything like that at the moment. Are you
Well,
seeing
no,
God's hand of protection?
there have been people killed.
Ah, okay.
There have been people killed and there have been many injured. But I'll point on a couple of details about this current war. Number one, I would have to say, yes, there are certainly miracles at work and God is with us. But we also have to recognize the importance of the Israeli defense systems that have been put in place and the diplomatic relationships that have enabled this attack to take place with the effectivity that it is apparently taking place. The taking out of the major leaders, the destruction of this horrific regime, a brutal regime that was oppressing its own people, bringing freedom to the people of Iran, to the original Persian people. And so, again, yes, it is biblical, but I think where there's also something very real. There's unique thing about the story of Esther is that there is no reference to God in the entire book. And so, where is God in the story of Esther? It is with the Jewish nation as they pray. Esther says to the Jews, you should fast for 3 days before she goes to the king. And it is those 3 days, the pleas of the Jewish nation, and they prayed both from Persia to Cush, to all of the nations all around. Jews everywhere fasted and they prayed. And we continue, by the way, to fast the day before Purim, to Anit Esther. It's called the Fast of Esther. And we follow in that tradition because we know that even when God is not mentioned, then he is there. Now, this war also, this round of this war also, I'll mention something else that's distinct from the last one, which is over the last 2 years, when a missile would hit, we would often be given information nearly right away. I'm sorry, 1 second. I've just got a notification of a possible incoming missile. Okay. When we knew that a missile did hit somewhere, information was given almost automatically. How many were injured? How many were killed? There is a delay in that right now. Number one, yesterday when it all began, it was Shabbat. Many people are doing peaceful things with their families, are observant and do not use the electricity or their phones on Shabbat. Maybe that's one of the reasons, but I think it's also because of the security risk that has been learned in previous assaults, in which people were sharing so much information about where missiles fell. The enemies were able to utilize those coordinates and determine more effective launches than others. That then enabled them to relaunch on similar sites. You can see this evidence in how many more missiles are now reaching the main centers that they are aiming to reach: Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Jerusalem. In the last 24 hours, we have had many, many injured, and we have had 2 killed in one attack, direct hit on a building in Tel Aviv. And we had one who's in critical condition from attack in Jerusalem. In Haifa, there was one single missile that went in on the 21st floor of a building, and the missile went all the way down to the 17th floor and blew up the entire side of the building. But here's the miracle. No one was injured because the section of the apartments that were not blown up were the row of the column of the safe rooms, what we call a mamad, a merchav mugan, a safe space, protected area. That column was not touched. No one was injured. Many of the injuries are things that people also are discounting. That if nobody dies, then no. Here we're living a nation in terror, and I'm not going to lie. The fear factor of yesterday and today, this is how we woke up. This is how it was every 2-3 hours. I have not slept. Luckily, I have a little bit older children. They're in their teens, so they're able to really kind of cope, but at the same time, they don't. They're really focused on distracting themselves by using social media, right? And yet, is that healthy? So I just want to remind people that even if the attacks are not necessarily killing people in the thousands, which is what they're being told Israel does in Gaza, and it is a lie. I emphasize that again. That is what people are being told Israel does in Gaza, that we kill people by the hundreds and by the thousands, and it is a lie. But Israel does not parade our dead, nor do we parade our trauma. No. We turn it into resilience. We don't talk often about how many are injured. Most people don't realize that there are nearly 30,000 people who were still healing from October 7th. Nobody talks about the number of injured. Nobody cares about the long-term trauma. I do think that it is worthy of making that mention also as a distinction in this new round of war with Iran. And it's very interesting where it's going to lead now that their primary leadership has been eliminated thanks to the incredible, forthright activism of 2 important leaders in our time, and that is Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Without these 2 men, the miracles we're living through would not be aided by the people. And that's what God always wants from us. Yes, God is there with us. He is with us. This is a spiritual battle, but we also need the on-the-ground leaders who can direct that battle in the right way. And aren't we thankful that we have who we have right now?
They seem to be born for such a time as this, Netanyahu and Trump.
Yes, very much so. And if you have tracked Netanyahu's leadership since his early days, when there's a very well-known video we have shared through our network of Bibi when he was 21 years old, giving the most eloquent explanation of the situation here on the ground and the goal of not only Palestinians, which was an entity that did not use that name, and so I put it in quotes, it was the Arabs on the ground here in Israel, but also he has constantly, again and again, without wavering, made Iran an issue on every international stage and in every diplomatic relationship. He has never stopped, even though people have said, give it up already. But what have we seen? Iran was able to achieve such a level, such an echelon, where they and Qatar were able to navigate the world and build the world infrastructure of terror that is pulsing in every society. What will happen now is very, very interesting because in their attack on Israel, Iran actually succeeded in dropping bombs on, if I'm not mistaken, 6 Arab nations. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 4 out of those Arab nations are part of the Abraham Accords, meaning they're already willing to start normalizing with Israel. They realize, stop trying to destroy Israel because we will keep winning. And that is also where we find God. Israel will keep winning. And therefore, yes, it's not just, I don't think that Trump would have been able to do this without Netanyahu. Whether or not Netanyahu could have done this without Trump, that's a different question. Everybody, can navigate that differently. But I do, as a citizen of Israel, I am so, so proud, in spite of all of his failings. And throughout the Bible, every one of our leaders they're failed humans, right? They all have character flaws from Abraham to David. Everyone has a flaw because God wants us to realize that they're human. So let's not put Netanyahu and Trump as if they're perfect. They're not. It's because they're flawed that we can look at their contribution to history and to humanity and say, for this time you were born.
So Purim is coming up, and it's the time where you read the book of Esther and celebrate the life of Esther. Within that celebration, there are boos for Haman when you mention the name Haman, and you also eat Haman's ears. This year, are you going to be booing Khomeini, and are you going to be eating Khomeini's ears?
Absolutely. The tradition of the Haman Passion, which is the Haman's in different languages, it's Haman's pockets or Haman's ears. And yes, I think that, in the last 2 years, we've been eating Hamas Passion because we want to destroy Hamas and get them to be eradicated from not only Gaza, but from the mentality of the world. And I think the same is true for Khomeini. Purim celebrations this year in Israel are going to be very, very subdued. They were the first year after October 7th as well. It was very difficult to come together with prayer celebration. This year it's a little bit different because everybody is relegated to private gatherings. There's no community gatherings. Most of the, things are shut down for the next 48 hours. Up to 2 weeks, they're saying we are going to have a complete disruption of all infrastructure throughout the country. There's no schools. There's no synagogue gatherings. So people are doing actually what Jews did for hundreds of years when they were living in their small towns called shtetl throughout Europe. In order to avoid being beaten up on the street by walking the far distance to the big synagogue, you created a little prayer group in your neighborhood. And so I think there's a lot of that going on. You can hear that even after Shabbat ended and people would go out on their balconies last night and have a prayer singing on their balconies in their communities because people, we want to keep the celebration going. And this is our happy month of Adar, a month of miracles. And so we're going to continue to celebrate it. The costumes, it'll be interesting what everybody does with their costumes this year. I have a feeling we won't only be eating Khomeini Tashin. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to suddenly decide they want to, celebrate the death of, and we do not in Judaism, by the way, celebrate the death of anyone, even our ultimate enemy. But here's something else I think your listeners might enjoy learning about, which is that this week, the Shabbat before Purim, is what is called Shabbat Zachor. And it is because right before we celebrate being saved, the miracle of outlasting the attempt to annihilate the Jews, we are asked to remember Amalek. it replaces the weekly Torah portion, and it doesn't the weekly Torah portion, and we reread the portion of the Bible where it says, "Remember Amalek and what they have done to you." So there is no coincidences in the Jewish world. And of course, on this Shabbat Zachor, we didn't just remember what Amalek did to us, we recognized it today. There was movement on the ground, that Iran was days away from achieving its first nuclear capable missile. They saw activity on the ground moving towards missile launchers. They saw so much activity that they preempted the attack in a way that nobody could imagine. Again, a miracle. So Purim this year is going to be really a celebration, but it's going to be subdued because of still being under missile fire. And as I said, right now it's about every 2 hours we are in our safe room. The Tel Aviv citizens, they have been in their safe room. We slept in there. They've been in with a missile fire, sometimes every 15 minutes, half an hour. And it's very, very nerve-wracking.
Do you feel this is going to be worse than last year? I think it was about 12 days last year. Do you think it's going to be worse this time, or do you think it's going to be different?
I wish I knew how to answer that. I know that there have been discussions about having citizens anticipate a 2-week disruption. 12 days, 14 days, to me, it's just a matter of this not being completed prematurely. In the sense that the world is already saying Israel and the United States are creating World War III. No, I'm sorry. October 7th launched whatever war we're in now. And that was funded and promoted by propaganda. And the propaganda was promoted through Iran and Qatar money. So all of this is leading up. I wouldn't want to put a limit on it. Like, we recognize now that as much as we wanted the war with Hamas to be quick and easy and over fast, and we were blessed by a 12-day war last time. But this time, I'd rather not think about a time frame. I'd rather like to think of completion of the task. I think we're up for it. I think that all of Israel is ready and willing and doing everything we can to sustain our strength, knowing that no matter what, the world is going to figure out a way to blame and target Jews. It's part of the historical destiny. I just think that that's something that we don't feel comfortable maybe putting an expectation number on it because it's too hard to know. Yeah. Do I think it's going to be worse, though? You asked an interesting question. Do I think it's going to be worse? What is worse? Do I think there's going to be potentially more loss of life? So do I think that if this war continues, will we see a significant loss of life? I think there also depends on what's going to happen on the ground with the individual groups in Iran and how will they maintain their momentum of launching their missiles with their leadership essentially is eliminated already. How will that play out, I think, is an important role. Israel also coordinated the largest cyber attack in history in coordination with their taking out the missile launchers in the military sites. So I think there's a lot of intelligence being circulated to aid how effective it can be in mitigating the impact on civilian life. But do I think it's going to be worse? Unfortunately, I think that Iranians are also going to continue to suffer. I think the Revolutionary Guard is going to continue to take out their aggression on the people. But you know what we're seeing already? They are taking off their hijab. They are celebrating in the streets. They are waving Israeli flags in Iran. And when we talk about a change in the world and the hand of God in it, what will be when the great kingdom of Iran and the great kingdom of Israel and Judea come together in peace? Imagine the power that can have. So even if it's going to be worse, we have to pray for the best.
What is your prayer today for Israel, and what is your prayer for the people of Iran?
I'll say for the people of Iran, I pray that the right leadership rises up. And Prince Pahlavi has been very vocal, and he has the support of the people and of the Arab street. And I think that that's really important. He is a peace-loving man who really is, as my mentor, Elie Wiesel, has always taught, one man with integrity can change the world. And I do hope that the new Prince of Iran, that he will take the leadership and be able to control those elements that have been drawn towards extremism, which is happening, by the way, in every country in the world. Other, lesser leaders and greater leaders have not succeeded in curbing the trend of terrorism in their own societies. I pray that they'll be able to do that. I pray that they will have the right leadership in the right place so that the people can take power and go back to being the wonderful civilization they once were. I do not believe that Jews always lived in the most glorious of times, but there were some wonderful, peaceful times between the Jewish nation and the Persian nation, and we are in this together. So that brings me to my prayer for the Jewish people. Jewish people everywhere in the world are feeling the attack and questioning because they have not known where to stand on the issue of war. My hope for the Jewish people is that they realize this preemptive attack saves lives. It is proactive defensive measures. That is what we need. We cannot sit and wait idly while they say they're going to kill us. How many years? For 40 years, 47 years, they're saying death to Israel, death to Israel, death to Israel, and they've tried every way. So my prayer to the Jewish people is that the Jews around the world will realize there is no one saving the world better than the nation of Israel in the state of Israel. And my prayer for Israelis is that we should just continue to be strong, celebrate, stay hopeful, have everyone involved in important discussions of what does this mean for continuing to build the most exemplary society in our nation state that we can. That's what Jews strive for. And I think if more people understood Judaism and saw the content of our prayer and how we pray, I think people would say, my gosh, how could we think ill of this people who only want to bring Torah, God's Torah, to the world? So that's my prayer, that we continue to pursue Torah and bring that light to the world as we fight the world's battles.
What is your website for people who'd like to know more about the work that you do?
Our website is israelforever.org, and come follow us on our social feeds because that's where we try to stay engaged with everybody. Israel Forever Foundation, the foundation for your engagement of making Israel personal, seeing the human side, and gaining great resources, recipes, readings, everything you can imagine, so that you can truly bring history to life and live the type of peace and hope that the Jewish people believe in. Again, I quote my mentor, Elie Wiesel, who said, hope is like peace. It is a gift only we can give one another. That is what Israel Forever stands for. We should give people more resources, more tools to navigate against the lies, understand the truth, and really to live our inside lives, our families, our friends, our Shabbat dinners, our Sunday dinners, to do it with more richness. And that's what Israel Forever is for, so that you feel more educated and more inspired. So come check us out, israelforever.org, and you can be recognized as a virtual citizen of Israel. We've got so many great campaigns. Don't forget, if you're feeling trauma, grab your Healing Hearts blanket now, because these things they're just warmth for the soul. Come and check it out at israelforever.org.
Well, Elana, thank you for sharing today, and we pray that you keep safe.
Thank you. And thank you for taking my mind off of the tension, because it is so very real. And by talking with you guys, it allows me an opportunity to say, wait, we are telling our story, and there are people out there who want to listen and learn. It's up to all of us to make the world a better place. So thank you so much for having me.